won't believe what Blake Lively is trying to cover up, the shocking truth behind her participation in those adult-themed movie scenes. Was she really on board with it? Did Blake Lively truly consent to being part of a sexually charged movie that's now got Hollywood buzzing? Well, the court documents and jaw-dropping revelations suggest something else entirely. Get ready, because this drama is far from over. The courtroom was abuzz, the air thick with tension, as the case between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni unfolded. What was supposed to be a simple lawsuit about an adult movie turned into a much darker and more explosive saga, and it all hinges on one jaw-dropping question. Did Blake Lively really consent to these adult movie scenes, or was she coerced into something far more sinister? It all began with the script, the one that Lively agreed to be a part of, or did she? The movie was meant to be bold, daring, pushing boundaries in the world of adult content. But was the script truly as sexy and grown-up as Lively had hoped? Or did the lines between consent and manipulation blur on set? Here's where things start to get ugly. In the middle of the trial, Lively's team argued that the behavior she experienced on set was nothing short of harassment, targeting her as a woman. They claimed that the very environment she was subjected to, the atmosphere of sexual tension and forced intimacy, was not something she had ever consented to. But was this really a case of misconduct, or was it simply part of the creative process?
Block was arguing that none of the behavior was directed at Lively because she's a woman. Second, it was all part of the filmmaking process for an adult-themed movie. They said that a lot of time, adult-themed movie. They kept calling it stuff like that to really hit home the fact this was an adult movie. Ezra, Lively's lawyer, argued that no, the countered the distinction, saying that Baldoni, he targeted her specifically rather than just subjecting her to generally inhospitable atmosphere. The relevant issue, Hudson argued, was consent, and Lively never gave it.
Justin Baldoni's team came forward with a wild defense, claiming it was all just part of the filmmaking process, that the scenes were necessary for the storyline and never intended to target Blake personally. And then came the bombshell, the consent argument. Was it given? Was Blake truly in control of her participation? Or was she led into these scenes under the pressure of Hollywood expectations, the promise of fame, and her desire to create something that would be remembered? Lively's legal team was quick to jump on the lack of consent as the core of their case, emphasizing the non-consensual nature of what transpired between her and Baldoni. But with no real proof, they were left fighting an uphill battle. How could they prove in a court of law that a simple dance move or brush against the back was enough to claim harassment? This trial, folks, became something much bigger than just Lively and Baldoni. It became a fight for power, control, and accountability in an industry where actors are often manipulated, where the lines between art and exploitation are often blurred. The public was left wondering, could Hollywood's sexy image be built on dark secrets of manipulation and coercion? Could these actors be hiding much more than we've been led to believe? Now let's talk about the real shocker here. As the trial progressed, something began to dawn on everyone. It wasn't just about consent anymore. The real issue? The atmosphere Blake was exposed to during the filming process. As Lively's legal team tried to argue that the lean-in scenes were unwanted, it all boiled down to this one question. Was it really that bad, or was she just playing the victim to stay relevant? Is it really possible to act out sexual scenes and then claim harassment? The court didn't have an easy answer. Lively's lawyer jumped in with one of the most controversial arguments of the entire case, claiming that she never consented to the actions that Baldoni's team had tried to pass off as creative freedom. And from there, it all got even messier. Ezra, Lively's lawyer, raised the stakes, questioning how anyone could argue yes to a scene where physical touch, even something as minor as a brush or a lean-in, was seen as part of the creative process. It was all playing out like some twisted performance in a courtroom drama. The tension was palpable as each side threw their evidence at the judge. Texts, emails, and even witness testimonies flooded the room. Every piece of evidence, however, pointed to one thing. Lively was complicit in the adult-themed nature of the film.
Two, even if she were an employee, let's suppose Wayfair can't deny this, it doesn't mean that she automatically wins. She still has to reach this pervasive or severe. It's pervasive or severe. And then we can go back to the earlier discussion, which is we're here about a brush and a lean. And Judge Lyman can, as a matter of law, say that is not enough for either the severe or the pervasive.
Whether she wanted to admit it or not. But there was a twist. During the trial, it was revealed that Blake Lively herself had agreed to many of the aspects of the film. In fact, it was her own words that seemed to contradict her legal stance. She had openly discussed the importance of sex appeal in the film with the production team. A text message from her to her manager revealed just how far she was willing to go in order to make the film a success. She had explicitly said, "The sexiness in this film is crucial to its success." It was clear she had embraced the role with all its mature content. It seemed like Blake Lively's own actions were unraveling her entire argument. How could she claim to have been harassed if she had actively embraced the film's racy nature? She wanted the heat, the passion, and the sex appeal. But could she have been blindsided by the reality of what it would entail? The trial turned into a battle of perception. Was she a victim of exploitation, or was she simply embarrassed about the consequences of her choices? The whole case now hinged on one thing: consent. Was it really about whether Lively agreed to the scenes? Or was this a case of Hollywood pressure that finally took its toll? And then came the real shocker, the legal implications of it all. Could Blake Lively have been manipulated by the industry into something she later regretted? And was she really trying to backtrack to save face? The court was left wondering if this trial was more than just about one film, but about a larger problem in Hollywood, an issue of control and exploitation behind the camera. As Lively's lawyers scrambled to establish the severity of the offense, the judge began to draw a line in the sand. Could a brush and a lean-in really constitute harassment? Was this enough for a federal court to rule in her favor? Or was this just part of a larger issue? The fame, the power, and the artistic freedom of Hollywood collided head-on in this trial, and the stakes had never been higher. This case wasn't just about one actress trying to reclaim her dignity. It was about something much larger, about a system that thrives on exploitation, misdirection, and corporate interests.
Right? She has to get past the creativity protections. Then she has to, with whatever's left, it has to be severe pervasive. And after that, there has to be evidence that those things were things that she was offended by, which her own contemporaneous documents and those who represent her own agents, like you pointed out just now, go like, she wanted it to be sexy. They were looking for sexy. They were working up to sexy. And it all...
Was it truly a creatively charged atmosphere, or had it become something much darker? And in the end, would Lively's own words betray her? The tension in the courtroom was palpable as the case against Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni progressed. But now, it wasn't just about what happened behind the scenes. It was about how much Blake was aware of and complicit in the creation of the movie. Could it really be called sexual harassment if she had been actively involved in the process, driving the film's adult themes forward? How much of it was actually her decision, and how much was it simply her playing the victim to gain sympathy? The shocking twist? It wasn't just the courtroom drama that had people talking. It was the revelations that began leaking out about the production itself. Behind all the legal wrangling, the case became a window into the dark side of Hollywood, where artists, actors, and creatives often have their hands tied by the very system they're trying to be a part of. Blake Lively, the queen of glam and style, was now fighting a battle that could potentially ruin her career, and Justin Baldoni wasn't making it any easier. But let's be real, could it have been that Blake simply didn't think it through? Or was she tricked into something bigger than she imagined? That was what everyone in Hollywood was wondering, and as the case proceeded, the true nature of this lawsuit began to emerge. As the legal back and forth continued, we started hearing more about Blake's personal stance. While it may have been tempting for the public to buy into the image of a hurt actress, the truth was starting to be a lot more complicated. Was Blake really as offended as she was claiming? Or was she more focused on the image of the perfect victim that Hollywood loves to spin for sympathy? As it turns out, the evidence in the form of contemporaneous text messages seemed to paint a different picture. Lively's words didn't line up with her legal arguments. She had pushed for the sexy scenes, and the leaked messages from her directly to the production team made it clear she was all in. Was this a case of wanting the fame and the glamour, only to be caught off guard by the backlash that followed? Or was this just her playing her hand too late? The public's perception of Blake Lively was quickly shifting, and with every twist, her image began to crack. It was hard to ignore the mounting evidence that Blake was a lot more involved than she wanted to let on. It wasn't just the filming atmosphere, it was Blake's own words that were starting to undermine her case. She had repeatedly emphasized how crucial the sex appeal of the film was, and now, in the court of public opinion, she was starting to lose the high ground. Her participation was too well documented, and the sexy and grown-up tone she helped helped shape for the movie seemed to contradict everything she was now claiming in court. Was she trying to play the victim after being part of the decision-making process? But it didn't end there. As more legal experts weighed in, it was becoming increasingly clear that Lively's case was in danger of falling apart. Despite all the claims of sexual harassment, the facts seemed to tell a different story. If the behavior wasn't as severe or pervasive as required under California law, could this case really stand up in court? The lean-in and the grays were the highlights of the case, and many experts were left scratching their heads, wondering if such minor gestures could actually constitute harassment. But of course, Hollywood thrives on drama, and with this case, the stakes couldn't be higher. The fight for power in the creative process was on full display, and at the center of it all was the issue of consent. Were these actors truly acting under duress when they took on these roles, or was it a case of riding the wave of fame and regret hitting hard later on? In one of the more startling revelations that came to light during the case, it was revealed that Lively herself had signed off on the film's racy scenes, with the full knowledge that the movie would be marketed as a sexually charged spectacle. Could she now turn around and claim she had no idea what she was signing up for? Was this genuine shock and regret, or strategic damage control in an attempt to preserve her career? The jury was still out. So where does this leave Blake Lively in her battle with Justin Baldoni and the Hollywood machine? She's facing the possibility that her public image could be permanently damaged by the fallout from this lawsuit. But more than that, she's up against a legal system that might see her own participation in the film as evidence that this was never about harassment. It was about Hollywood's dirty little secret, that many stars are willing to take part in these risky roles because they want the spotlight. But when the lights start to dim, they scramble to make it look like they were the victim all along. As more details trickle out, the public's perception of Lively continues to evolve. The question now isn't just whether or not she consented to these scenes. It's about whether she owned the movie's adult themes and simply regretted the consequences. Did she know what she was getting into, or was she caught in the Hollywood hype? As the trial continues, these revelations are only going to grow bigger, and Blake's reputation may never be the same. The truth remains murky, but one thing is for sure: Blake Lively's confession and the questions surrounding her consent will be haunting her career for years to come. So, did she really agree to these adult scenes, or is this just a game of Hollywood manipulation? The court is about to decide, but we all know the drama's far from over.